Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm a sessional instructor and postdoctoral fellow. I realize that recorded PowerPoints are not the most popular genre of YouTube video, but I wanted to start with what I know and then hopefully transition to some more visually pleasing videos. Today, I wanted to address the somewhat controversial topic of online learning. I say it is a controversial topic because I do recognize that some students and instructors have really struggled over the past 2 years, and I don't want to minimize that. But as we plan for post-pandemic teaching, I wanted to make a video reflecting on my own experiences with teaching online and how I have found it to be beneficial both as an instructor and how I've really seen the benefits to my students. I have always been fascinated with how to facilitate the development of robust learning communities, and I have found that through digital strategies and online learning, I have really been able to accomplish this goal. Some have argued that in-person instruction is the gold standard and that we must return to fully in-person courses to help with growing mental health concerns as well as to have better student outcomes. Instead, I am suggesting that we need to allow for flexibility in delivery modes and to continue to use some of the digital strategies that have worked so well over the past 2 years. There is no doubt that some instructors and students do better in an in-person learning environment, but there are a growing number of people who thrive in online learning communities. So, how do I build these engaging online learning communities in my courses? Essentially, I have three main strategies in designing all of my online courses. The first is to build in flexibility for students with universal design for learning in mind. I create my course content to allow for asynchronous participation. I also include live transcription and captions for videos. I scaffold assessments, and I also have flexible deadlines for all course assignments in my classes. I build in what I call cycles of participation for students to engage in the course content regularly. And finally, I create certainty through my learning management system design. So I wanted to get into a little bit more about what I call my cycles of participation. And this makes up my students' course engagement mark. So every week, students are required to submit one question. And this is a pass or fail quiz in my learning management system. I then review all of the questions for the week, and I pick out usually three. And these go into a breakout room discussion document. So students are, during the class, are transported into breakout rooms where they discuss these questions, and then we come back and we have a discussion recap. For students that are participating asynchronously, there is also a way for them to recap the discussion. And oftentimes, the discussion recaps lead into further questions for the next week. So I use a shared breakout room document in my courses, and this is adapted from one of my lovely colleagues, and I'm not sure if she would want her name mentioned on YouTube, but this is a document that I've adapted for my own courses. And again, what essentially I do is I pick out three questions that are pasted into the document. And one of the great things about this document is that there are clear roles for what students need to do when they get into the breakout rooms. So they are told that they need to select someone that's going to be a note taker, who's going to be taking notes for their breakout room. There needs to be a moderator, which is essentially sort of a timekeeper and making sure that things stay on task. I ask students to only spend about 2 minutes per question in the breakout rooms. And so we need to, have someone to keep that on task. And then there needs to be a group spokesperson who comes back and recounts what they have discussed in the breakout rooms and to the larger class. And that's where we sort of have our discussion recap. And what's so great about this document is that there are asynchronous capabilities. So at the bottom of the document, there's a summative exercise that asks students to read over the discussion for the week, and then they need to come up with their own response, either responding to the questions or sort of looking at what the other breakout rooms have discussed for that week. As I mentioned earlier, creating certainty is a very important part of my online teaching philosophy. And I do this through my learning management system organization. And so I use a modular design, which incorporates text headers to indicate to students what they need to do in each section. So every week, again, they need to submit their questions, and that is sort of under the to complete section. If there's an assignment for that week, I usually add a to-hand in. Because I am a film studies instructor, I also include links to the weekly films as well as the readings. And then when the live class happens, I make live this class activity section, which includes a copy of the slides, a link to the breakout room, and sometimes in the breakout rooms, we also do shared research exercises. So instead of looking at the questions, sometimes that'll be part of the, sort of the discussion recap. There's actually a time in the breakout rooms to facilitate for learning research skills. So sometimes there will be a shared research folder. There will be other sort of pertinent links for that week, as well as a class recording. And finally, I always include a class playlist, which is also linked on the learning management system. So this is a good way to sort of set the scene for students. At my institution, classes start 10 after the hour. So there's this sort of 10-minute period that is often sort of mired with silence in classes. So what myself and as well as many other instructors do is create a playlist. And I usually create a playlist that is connected to the weekly films, that sort of reflects maybe slightly on the narrative or to sort of get the mood of the film. So another thing that I have really found very beneficial in teaching online is thinking of new ways to assess my students, and particularly leaning into ideas surrounding authentic assessment, which is sort of the idea of creating these sort of creative learning experiences to measure student learning. So this is, very discipline specific, but it's applicable to a wide variety of courses. So in my classes, I, create things like blog and Instagram posts, podcasts, video essays, which I'm going to be discussing a little bit more in the next slide. And I think one of the great things about teaching online is that you can also sort of lean into digitally focused experience-based assignments. So in a seminar class that I taught called Local Film Cultures, there was actually already an existing blog that was developed by the creator of the course, Professor Cass Banning, that has been very popular over the years. So I sort of had an existing website to work off of. And I had students use digital research tools to discover digital archives, to create a specific section on the blog related to that, as well as the main assignment, which was a group assignment, was to explore COVID-19's impact on Toronto's theater cultures. And so in the linked photo, you'll see, how has COVID-19 affected the T and TIFF, which is one of the articles that students wrote. To tie into this assignment, I also asked students to create posts on our Instagram, and this was also tied into our digital research assignment. So I gave students a list of theater related or film related content based on local film cultures in Toronto, and students were using digital archives to look that up, and then they posted on Instagram and with a link to the blog. And so that was another interesting sort of authentic assessment, as well as digital based assignment that students really thrived in. The other thing that I have incorporated in a lot of my online courses is having students create video essays, and I often will have that sort of in a part of a scaffolded assignment that does add a written component. So actually one of my students is on YouTube, and they created this wonderful publicly accessible video essay, which they have also given me permission to share on female representation in the films of Federico Fellini and Martin Scorsese. And in the description box, I'm going to link the video, and I really encourage you to watch it. So this recent semester, I really wanted to assess, I felt that students were really thriving in my online courses, but I really wanted to assess this with a tangible survey. So students received 1 mark towards their course engagement mark by filling out the survey. So I got, a very good response rate. So in total, 76% of my students responded, and there were in total 52 students who answered my survey in the fall of 2021. And this course I taught as a hybrid course, although most of my students were accessing the course online. So this was a 60-person plus course, and I would only maybe get about 4 to 5 students in the in-person section, with the rest of them accessing online. So this was another reason I wanted to sort of gauge, why students were so interested in staying in the online section. So 60% of the students who filled out my survey indicated that they would actually prefer to continue taking online only courses, with only 27% preferring hybrid courses. Only 13% indicated that they would like to return to a fully in-person classroom, which I did find surprising. The reasons why so many students wanted to stay online or continue taking hybrid courses was based on 42% said that it was based on accessibility. They found online courses more accessible, that they could access live transcripts, and they were able to also sort of, it also catered more directly to their unique learning styles and needs. Another big thing that many students find to be accessible is the ability to participate in the class, both verbally, but through the chat as well. 35% said that their preference for online and hybrid courses was based on long commute times to campus. And so I think that's a very significant number. I live in a large metropolis, and many students are commuting, at least over an hour to get to class. And I have definitely noticed a much higher participation rate in post-pandemic teaching than in pre-pandemic teaching. I have, close to, even though students can watch the videos asynchronously, I have close to 90 to 95% students attending my class synchronously. And I would never get that type of participation rate in person before the pandemic, just based on commute times and other commitments like work, which was something that came up as another big benefit that students saw, was that it gave them more flexibility with scheduling their work commitments. 87% of the students surveyed said that they felt a sense of community in the online section of the course. And so many students with different learning needs, I think find it beneficial to access course content digitally. But I also wanted to mention that as an instructor with a chronic health condition, I also find teaching online to be far more accessible. As a sessional instructor in the pre-pandemic days, it was very difficult for me because of my health condition to commute to several different institutions. Some days I'm in so much pain, it's hard for me to get out of my living room. So the ability to teach online has just been a game changer for my health. I remember one semester in the pre-pandemic days where I had to leave my house at 6 a.m. to teach at one institution and then walk in the middle of winter to another institution for 30 minutes. And then I had to teach another class at 8 p.m. And, by the end of this semester, my, health had really, really failed. So I do think that there are a lot of, accessibility reasons why some instructors would also, feel that it's beneficial to teach online or have that flexibility to have, some online courses and some in-person sessions and use sort of a flipped model or a hybrid model when they're teaching. So I want to go over some of the summary of the student comments that I received in this survey, and also some of the comments that I have received from my previous online courses. So all of the students who have responded to my various surveys and also official surveys have, commented on the effectiveness of breakout rooms in building robust learning communities and peer groups. The teaching model that most students preferred was a 1-hour lecture with a short break, and then breakout rooms and class discussions in the second hour of class. I had played around previously with recording shorter lectures, and students actually seem to prefer the longer lecture model. Students really favored the different modes of participation for their course engagement mark. And many students commented that the combination of question submission and breakout room document was preferable to discussion boards, which some students commented as tiresome. So like with everything in our polemical age, it seems that there are both pro and anti online learning camps. I don't really see this as a polemical issue. Instead, I recognize, like I've sort of mentioned a few times throughout this presentation, that, some people learn and teach better in person, while others do better online. I will say that incorporating some of the digital strategies that I went over today, if it is possible in your classroom, no matter what your mode of delivery, is very beneficial in terms of accessibility, as well as sort of creating a robust dynamic between peer groups. This is my first YouTube video, so please be kind, but I would love to hear your experiences with online learning. Like I said, it clearly doesn't work for everyone, and I'm not arguing that every course needs to be online. But with the return to in-person instruction, I also hope that we can continue to recognize the importance of online and hybrid models of delivery to many learners as well as instructors. I hope with this presentation today, I was able to demonstrate that creating engaged online communities is possible. And I really believe that institutions that will allow for flexibility in delivery modes will be better places to work and learn. Academia has made some great strides, but we really need to continue to embrace more ways to make colleges and universities more accessible for both students and instructors. Thanks for listening, and I hope you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more teaching related content.